Today we are going to talk about formatting your source card. Your source card is an extremely important note card because it makes sure that you have all of the information to properly format your works cited page and your in-text citations. If you don't have the information correct or you don't have all the information you need on these cards, you are at risk of plagiarism. Okay? Even if it's accidental plagiarism, it is still considered plagiarism and you are at risk of failing this essay. So it's really important that you have this information. First, you need to tag this card with a symbol. This symbol you will use on any iCards or cue cards that you get information from this source on. Next, in the left-hand corner, you need to label this S card and then the number of source this is, so you can track how many you have. So if this is source number 6, for instance, you'd write that right there. If it's source number 2, you'd write a 2 instead. Next, we are going to number down the side 1 through 9. First, in number 1, you need to state the author's name. If there is no author, you need to mark it with an NA, which means not applicable. It does not exist for this source. Number 2, you need to state the title of your source. If your article or your different documentaries that you watch don't have a title or it's a very unclear title, you might want to consider choosing a different source. Number 3 is a little bit tricky. It's a little bit new. This is the title of container. Just like a container that you hold your food in, that you put your clothes in, this is the thing that holds your source, that holds your article. So for instance, if it is a journal, an online journal that you use, an academic journal, you would give that here. If it's just an article that came up through EBSCO or the Gale Opposing Viewpoints, you would state that here. Number 4 is other contributors. I'm going to put a star next to this. Not every source is going to have another contributor. For instance, this might be an editor that they list, a translator. Some sources will have them, some will not. This is not another author. Make sure you are clear on that. This is not another author. You would list all authors here at number 1. So there might be multiple authors that you list at the top. Number 5 is the version or edition number. You will see this oftentimes with newspaper articles or academic journals. Again, this might be something that you do not have if your source doesn't fall into one of those categories. Number 6 is the publisher. Okay, so who is in charge of publishing this information? Typically, it's going to be a company, and that will be found either at the top of the source or at the end when they're listing the different people who are in charge of making this source happen. Number 7 is the publication date or the most recent update. So you might see multiple years or multiple months that a source was published in, but you need to use the most recent one. All of our sources need to come within the last about 5 to 10 years. And that's being a little bit gracious as well, because we know how fast things change. The speed of information that we can now receive is much quicker now, and so we are able to get more updated information faster. Number 8 is the location. Location is 2 things. Number 1, it's a page number if you have it. Again, do not make up a page number. If you print your source and it has the little page numbers at the top because that's how the printer printed it, do not use those. Okay? Only if your article gives you page numbers within the document, even before you print it. Those are the only page numbers you can use. If it doesn't have a page number, that's just fine. You can also include the web URL. Now, I know sometimes these web URLs are ridiculously long, so here's what I'll let you do. If you have a web URL that you are going to put on for number 8, if you would like to instead create a Google document to track these web URLs, that would be just fine. But I do recommend that you save them either on this note card, you handwrite it, or you put them on a Google Doc that you call argumentative sources, for instance. So that way you can go back and reference them as you need to. And then number 9 is the date that you accessed the source. If you don't know the exact date, that's okay. You can either look at when you printed it, or you can make a rough estimation. You know that we started researching last Tuesday, and we'll continue researching all of next week, so you can kind of estimate the day that you access that source, as long as it's within this 2-week window. So again, just to recap, you need to make sure that you have a tag in the top right-hand corner. The iCards and the Q cards that you create based on this source must have this exact same tag. Next, make sure you label it an S card and the number of source this is, so you can track how many you've used. And then you'll go through 1 through 9. Even if there is not a number 5, for instance, you still need to write down number 5, and next to it you would write NA, because you have this card right here that we just created that tells you what each of these numbers are. When you go back to make your works cited page, you have to plug all this information in a specific way, and if your numbers get off and you put in the wrong information in the wrong spot, that's going to create an incorrect citation. Okay, so we have to make sure that you have your numbers and the information. Even if there is no information, again, you would just write that NA. Most of your sources are going to have the majority of this information, so if you are struggling to find what you can put there, or if your source has this or not, please let me know and I'll be happy to help.